Hi, my name is Katie Piccioni. I am the class of 2016. I did a double major in mechanical engineering and society, technology, and policy. And I now work at the Federal Emergency Management Agency, where I figure out how to use aerial imagery, maps, and other geospatial technologies in disaster response and recovery. While I was at WPI, all three of my main projects related to Latin America. My IQP was in Costa Rica, where my team worked with the Costa Rican Ministry of Agriculture to evaluate an organic farming training program that they were running with farmers in the region. For my MQP, I worked with La Fundación Paraguaya in Paraguay to design a class for their students on how to build rainwater collection systems to improve water security. And part of the project was to figure out how to design and build rainwater harvesting systems using locally available materials. And then for my humanities inquiry seminar, I actually did my inquiry seminar on research methods in writing, where I studied pictorial literacy. How do we understand and interpret images? But this was applied to an extracurricular project I was part of, also related to Latin America, with Engineers Without Borders. At the time, Engineers Without Borders was working on a project with a community in rural Guatemala to build rainwater collection systems. And one of the problems was how to design training materials that were appropriate for people who were illiterate and didn't know how to read. And so through my inquiry seminar, I came up with a set of guidelines for how to create culturally appropriate picture-based training materials.
Hey everyone, my name is Princesa and I graduated 2016 in ECE with a Spanish minor. I started taking Spanish courses as part of the humanities requirement, and I later switched into a minor as well as the humanities because I was really interested in the courses. I took things like comparative business environments, topics in Latin American culture, contemporary US Latino literature, and I really liked all of them because I'm Latina, and they were probably the first courses I took as a student ever that really made me feel like I was connected to something, and it helped sort of define my own life experiences and where I feel in history overall. And I found them just really fascinating. I had really great teachers. I also did my IQP in Puerto Rico, and me and my team worked with the U.S. Forest Service to do climate change curriculum materials for middle schoolers. And there, I really enjoyed what we were doing. I felt like I could just put in my all, and it was a really amazing experience that honestly changed my whole career path. After graduating, I actually went to the University of Puerto Rico, Mayagüez, to do a master's in electrical engineering. I actually applied for a master's in research, or a master's of research is what they call it out there, in Latin American studies. And there, again, I just loved the field. I loved everything I did. We had a really small, intimate course, so we could talk to the professors about anthropology and human rights and current events and pre-Columbian history. And in London, I also spent a lot of time in Colombian communities, Ecuadorian, Peruvian, Bolivian. I volunteered at a trade union that had a lot of people from all over Latin America. And my thesis actually was on Puerto Rico and the Hurricane Maria, how it impacted the island and how it related to Puerto Rican economic history and the colonial past and its current political status as a territory of the U.S. So that's sort of what my trajectory has been, and really all of it's been influenced by just starting off in humanities courses at WPI.
Hi, my name is Jack Grubs, and I graduated in the class of 2019 with my BS in mechanical engineering. I then proceeded on to finish my BS-MS program in material science and engineering the following semester. And now I'm in my first year of my PhD studies in material science and engineering at WPI. So basically, the way that my experience with Latin America began was during my IQP at WPI, where I went abroad to Cuenca, Ecuador for 7 weeks during C term. It was a really exciting experience. I was able to work with a few of my peers on a project with the Public Works Department in Cuenca. And it was basically surrounding the nature of farming practices and how that was impacting water quality basically throughout the whole city. Really cool experience. We were able to really get a lot of exciting encounters with like local farmers and seeing what their practices were like. We were invited onto their farms. We worked really closely with members of the Public Works Department, and we're actually still in touch with them today via social media. It was a really exciting experience. I definitely never would have been able to have this if I weren't participating in WPI's global project experience. It was cool to see that we could actually, even with just very little experience on our end, we were able to go into another society and really impact them positively. We're able to develop a program of different best farming practices, and we kind of evaluated the relationships between the farmers and the Public Works Department, and we were able to provide some suggestions upon how they would be able to communicate with them better. And it was really from a social science perspective rather than like a technical environmental science perspective, which was really kind of enriching for us as engineers or aspiring engineers, because it was kind of able to give us an experience that made us a little bit more well-rounded in that regard. And they were actually able to eventually implement some of our recommendations, which was really cool for us to see back in the US.
Hi, I'm Kristen, and I graduated from WPI in 2014 with a double major in biology and Spanish. And while at WPI, I was incredibly fortunate to study abroad in Latin America 4 different times. I first traveled to Argentina at the end of my freshman year when I participated in the Buenos Aires Cultural Immersion Program, where we basically spent 1 month living in the city, living with a host family, studying at a language school, and learning about the culture and the history of both the city and the country of Argentina. And it was really through this experience that I gained immense confidence in myself, stepped out of my comfort zone, vastly improved my Spanish. I also met one of my mentors at WPI and several of my closest friends. But it was really through this experience that I fell in love with Latin America and ultimately decided to pursue a double major in Spanish at WPI. And I loved this experience so much that I actually decided to travel back to Argentina at the end of my sophomore year in 2012. And following these experiences in Argentina, I decided I wanted to do my IQP in a Spanish-speaking country. So I chose Costa Rica. And in Costa Rica, my team worked with a sponsor that was involved with promoting and working with sustainable fishing in Costa Rica and marine protected areas. Following my experiences in Costa Rica, I then traveled to Paraguay with Global Humanitarian Alliance, which was a club at WPI, and we got to meet with the Ministry of Health and work on a dengue fever prevention project. And this ultimately jump-started the Paraguay IQP site for future generations of WPI students. And it was really through my experiences studying abroad in Latin America, particularly in Costa Rica and in Paraguay, that really sparked my interest in public health. And I knew that after graduating WPI, I wanted to pursue my PhD in biology and do some sort of biological research. But I really learned that I was more interested not just in the basic science, but also in the translation of my research into something more important to help those around the world. And so that led me to apply for my PhD at the Johns Hopkins School of Public Health, where I worked in tropical medicine. I did my PhD in malaria diagnostics. And so I did have a basic science project, but I was able to see how the impacts or what the impacts my research was going to have on people in countries all over the world, including in Latin America, Africa, and in Asia. After my PhD, I decided to pursue patent law, and I now work as a technology specialist in a law firm in Boston doing life science patent law. And this really allows me to pursue both my passions of biology and the humanities, because not only do I need to understand and analyze cutting edge, complicated life science technologies, but I also have to be able to write about them and communicate about them to others. And so this allows me to really use what I learned during my experiences at WPI as a biology and Spanish double major.